March Comes In Like a Lion is an incredible show. If you follow anime, you probably already knew that, but since I spent a lot of time on my last video pointing out flaws, I think it'll be refreshing to take a look at why the show is so good. It has a lot going for it, but I think the most important part of the show, or at least the thing that kept me coming back, is the character development. The way this show fleshes out its characters is masterful. And I'm gonna tell you why, here we go. March Comes In Like a Lion is about Rei Kiriyama, a 17-year-old professional shogi player. He lives alone, estranged from his adoptive family, only recently coming out of his shell to the Kawamoto family, a family that has recently lost a mother and a grandmother, and have a tendency to take in strays, be they cats or high schoolers.
だからご飯って言うのかね。今ご飯って言いましたよね。先輩自分も確かに聞いたんだ。しまった。違うの。今言ったご飯はあなたたちのご飯のことじゃなくて。私それを言っちゃった。ご飯お兄さんご飯なんですか。
We follow Rei through his career as he balances work, school, and his own mental health. I want to call it slice of life, but it feels a bit too emotionally impactful to fit that description. Instead of cute characters doing cute things, it's more cute characters doing cute things while battling depression and past trauma. For those of you that haven't seen it, I'm going to keep this video pretty much spoiler-free, so don't say I never did anything for you. The first thing I want to talk about is the art. Artistic style can often be overlooked when talking about character development, but great works are able to give you information about their characters without a single word. Before I started watching March Comes In Like a Lion, and I learned that it was made by Shaft, I was expecting something visually similar to the Monogatari series or Madoka Magica. Something wild and abstract that feels otherworldly. But that's not what I got. Shaft ended up largely honoring the art style of Chika Umino, the manga author. That's not to say that her art never breaks free from realism, but you won't be seeing many impossible head tilts or collages here. Honestly, at first, this disappointed me. I love when anime gets weird with its visuals. I think its ability to push creative boundaries in that way is what makes the medium so great. But as I watched the show, I started warming up to its visual style more and more. Now that I've finished the series, and of course rushed to catch up with the ongoing manga, I've fallen in love with its visuals. It still doesn't really look like anything else I've seen, and it does an incredible job of showing you its characters' feelings through its art. As I mentioned earlier, March Comes In Like a Lion is very slice of life adjacent. The characters' lives and problems stay pretty grounded, at least compared to the average anime series, so the art being a bit more realistic works given the story. It can communicate loneliness and apathy incredibly well, showing Rei shrouded in black with cold wind and shadow whipping past him. Rei is in a near constant battle with depression, especially in the first season, and these scenes perfectly place the viewer into his headspace. The show can also bring up a sense of warm comfort in scenes like these where he's with the Kawamoto family. Especially the food scenes, oh my god. No show has made me feel so strongly about dinner. There's a huge focus on the feeling of eating a home-cooked meal with your loved ones. And these scenes, for me, are where the show gets a bit of a leg up on the manga. The colors they use in these scenes are perfect. It feels like the characters are living in a watercolor painting. This sort of muted warmness that makes the whole scene feel comfy. It makes the moments when Rei is fearful of losing that comfort even more powerful. The artistry behind the drawings and animation really comes through during the shogi scenes. Before I started watching, I was skeptical of this aspect of the show. I don't know how to play shogi, and even if I did, I know it's a lot like chess, where even if you know how all the pieces move, that doesn't mean you'll find professional play engaging. It's more engaging the more you know about the game. If you know some standard openings or the counters to those openings, suddenly a pro player deviating from those can become really exciting to you. You're thinking, what do they know that I don't? Whereas if you're someone like me, you just see pieces moving around the board. Fortunately, you don't need to know anything about shogi to enjoy this show. In fact, I would say that Shogi is pretty far from the point of March Comes In Like a Lion. You could replace it with any game or sport and tell roughly the same story. The Shogi scenes are always more about two characters locked in competition, bringing with them their hopes, quirks, and insecurities. And the way these feelings are presented always keeps the matches interesting. A common theme for the first season is Rei coming to terms with the idea that winning in Shogi requires an opponent to lose. It sounds a little silly when put into words, but in a professional setting, winning and losing can mean a whole lot. Rei's opponents are going through hardships like divorce, having a sick family member, or considering retirement. For many of these characters, Shogi isn't just a profession, it's their identity. It's how they express themselves to the world and validate their own feelings and decisions. Rei's character starts off as someone with incredibly low self-esteem. There are many cases where he knows he's a better player than his opponent, but he is still wondering if he deserves to win. If he should give another win to an old man who's planning on retiring after his next loss. If he can bring himself to defeat a man who's going through a bitter divorce and struggling with alcoholism. With each passing game, we get to see Rei battle his opponents as well as his own insecurity. And I mean that literally. The animators give us a visual representation of whatever Rei is feeling during these games. Artistic choices like this, working together so well with the writing and voice acting, are what makes good anime so special. Watching a shogi match with our main character's rank and mental health on the line makes every match exciting. These scenes fit the description of a non-battle battle anime, laid out in a wonderful video by Super Eyepatch Wolf. To put a very long and detailed video into a few sentences, these shogi games feel a lot like a shonen battle anime, just with shogi pieces instead of energy beams and forbidden moves. Usually. The shogi matches are a vehicle for the characters to develop, in the same way a fight scene in Naruto plays out. Every single match serves the purpose of either telling you more about a character, or letting you watch a character change in the face of adversity. This takes us to one of my favorite ways March Comes In Like a Lion develops its characters. The show will often introduce a character to you in passing, letting you and Rei get a first impression of that character. But then, maybe right away or maybe a season later, you'll get their backstory. You get to see their character in a whole new light. This method of character development is hardly unique to this show. Hell, nearly every story does this to some extent. But the author seems to be almost obsessed with this style. She will set up your opinion of a character, villain, or friend, and then start poking holes in whatever impression that character first gave you. These deep dives into other characters always manage to relate back to our protagonist. They can give context to why another character may have wronged him, let you know more about who he just defeated or lost to, or, in cases where Rei is learning the information along with the viewer, they can directly influence Rei's character growth. My favorite example of one of these side character vignettes is Yanagihara's final match against Shimada. At first, you really only see Yanagihara as a crotchety old man. In fact, he's the current oldest professional player. And we get some comic relief at his expense when he compares himself to the younger pros. At the start of their title matches, I think most viewers would be rooting for Shimada. We've spent a lot more time with him over the previous season, plus he's Rei's mentor. He's been chasing a title for years, and we've already been through some heartbreaking moments with this character. But as we approach the end of their series, we get a good look into the mind of Yanagihara. We feel the loneliness that comes from being the oldest in your field, and the fear that comes to old pros when they think about what they'll do with themselves after retirement. What do you do after you quit the game that you used to define yourself? He spent the majority of his life playing shogi professionally, and he's good at it too. He's seen his closest friends stagnate, drop out, or retire around him. He feels the weight of everyone's expectations wrapping around him. We see his struggle, his thought process play out in front of us in some of the most powerful scenes I've seen in animation. Yanagihara thinks about letting that weight go, conceding the match to Shimada and finally retiring. But something stops him. He starts desperately holding on to the weight that he carries without knowing exactly why. Whether it's the expectations of his peers, his own drive to keep winning, or maybe just out of habit, something compels him to fight for his title. And suddenly, you don't really know who to root for. The match means so many different things to both characters, it almost feels wrong to pick a side. I love this arc. It takes nearly everything this show is good at and puts it into one story. If the visuals weren't so striking, or if the writing was clumsier, arcs like this would probably feel like distractions, detours from what Rei and the Kawamoto sisters are going through. But the vignettes that Chika Umino scatters through March Comes In Like a Lion always feel important, even if she's developing a minor character. It gives the shogi matches stakes. It makes the world of the series as a whole come alive. Everyone in the show has their own problems. It isn't easy being anyone, and this show illustrates that beautifully. While Rei remains the most fleshed out character, it really does feel like the show could stay compelling no matter who it followed. The world Rei is in is full of interesting people and interesting stories, and we're lucky enough to get a glimpse of just a few of them. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed yourself, please leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also click the bell button. I've heard it's like subscribing, but different somehow. I understand if you don't click the button. I never have, personally. Anyway, thanks again, and goodbye.